Hello, everyone. Mackie here, and just a couple of minutes ago, the UEFA Champions League draw just finished. Now, I'm gonna go through pretty much all the juicy matchups that's gonna be taking place throughout the next couple of months as we get ready for another campaign of European success for some of the teams. The rest of them are gonna be like not much. But before that, some big news, some absolute huge news. And in that Champions League making major changes to the Champions League funnel starting next year. And by the BBC tweet, they saying that they're going to kick off the Champions League funnels at 5 p.m. UK time, which of course UK people do not know that. But when I researched that, it's 11 a.m. Eastern. 11 a.m. That is weird for me. So let's just read the situation. This is from our good old friend Jamie Spencer, and it said that UEFA has announced a major difference to the Champions League final from this season onwards, confirming a 3-hour change to the kickoff time, intended to improve the entire match day. Now, historically, a midweek game, UEFA ditched the old Wednesday night format for the final in 2010, staging on a Saturday for the first time as Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan won the treble. So there's that. But even then, it remained an evening kickoff at 8:45 Central Eastern Time, or in the Americans' terms, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, the longest average time. Now, UEFA decided to push back by a further 15 minutes to 9 p.m. CET in 2019, which means the finals is not typically around and finish at 11 p.m. Now, for this year, 2026, the showcase finals will be taking place in Hungary for the first time at the famous Puskás Arena. There it is, beautifully. The kickoff times will kick off at 6 p.m. CET and 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, of course, this will take place at daytime savings. So if you're a Jamaican like me, it's around 11 a.m. So, and it said the UEFA says the early evening slot is expected to enhance the overall match day experience for fans, teams, and host cities by optimizing logistics and operations. The earlier time means that fans should have improved access to public transportation, particularly after the game has finished, while host cities will hope to see a boost to the local economy and all that jazz. Yeah. Now, now from a broadcast perspective, the UEFA also hopes to make the Champions League more accessible to a wider audience. The old 9 p.m. ECT kickoff time would equate to even later start time in most extreme countries like Ukraine, Romania, and Greece and Turkey. So it's listen. Here, I think my opinion is pretty much simple. I think the kickoff times are. I don't matter. I don't think kickoff times are matter that much. Listen, I watched like the FA Cup final last like 2 months ago when Crystal Palace won at around like 11 a.m. So it's not as much surprising. And of course, the championship playoff final, which is also taking place, I think around the same day. No, I think it was 2 weeks ago when Sunderland promoted from the Premier League. It was also around 11 a.m. at that time. So it's not much a surprise to me that they're moving the time away from like your old 2:30 p.m. time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm talking in daylight savings terms, but for that to happen, it's like wider audiences kind of stuff, people, economic, and all that jazz, which I don't think it's that much to talk about. Of course, kickoff changes and that jazz. It may make a difference, of course. It may make a difference of like how people will approach these situations because many people will look at this Champions League finals around 2:30 a.m. like the traditional time and all kinds of slots. And for this to happen, it's like it's weird, but it is what it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for. And by the way, there's some, as of the time of recording, there's some Europa Conference League games and some Europa League games that are taking place, of course, and hopefully Aberdeen do not make another Scottish embarrassment, of course, like Celtic and Rangers, of course. But I think they'll be fine. That will take place tomorrow, of course. The UEFA Europa League and the Conference League will take place tomorrow. For now, for now, it is time for the Champions League main event. And ladies and gentlemen, we got some cracking games. Cracking games. We got some absolute barn burners in taking place. Now, PSG will take on in will okay, wait, let me just read all these kind of stuff. And yeah, so here we go. We're gonna go with the main team, with the teams that matters much. So Real Madrid, you're gonna face Manchester City, Juventus, Marseille, and Monaco, and you're gonna face. Okay, let me just rephrase. Come back. Real Madrid. You're going to face Manchester City, Liverpool, Juventus, and Marseille. Okay, if uh, let me just do something here. I'm gonna go with what we call the Champions League spice factor. Like like on a scale of 1 to 10, how spicy is your draw for the Champions League? And I will give Real Madrid the first crack. I give them a 7. Let's be, I mean, first off, and let's be brutally honest. For Juventus, we don't know what Juventus will be right now. Manchester City's are in a traditional period. We don't know what they will look like. Liverpool, we all know what their situation is going on right now. Their defense is not looking great. So, as I said, early days about these fixtures. But consider that you're facing against 3 strong opponents. And Benfica, mind you, who are no slouches in European football. So does Marseille, and so does Monaco. That is a pretty tricky one. So I'll give this one a 7 for me. Manchester City, if you look at their fixtures, Dortmund, Leverkusen, Napoli, Real Madrid in all their glory, I will give the Manchester City one. I will say Manchester City's spiciness is an 8. I'll give them a 7. I'll give them the same rating as well. We all know Manchester City are in a transitional period, of course. They have some good players, of course, decent players. Reiners is doing okay, I guess. But the loss of Tottenham is going to be pretty much send alarm bells to saying that yeah, they're gonna get caught. They're gonna get caught against some teams that will sit back, defend much, let Manchester City have the ball, and then counterattack and all that jazz and all kind of stuff. So they may be a problem for them. And Napoli is not an easy team to face off again. So Leverkusen is in a really weird transitional period with Ten Hag being in charge and some of the loss of players. I think Leverkusen can be cooked, of course. Dortmund is in the same weird position as well. So I think you can say that if you're facing Dortmund and Leverkusen in pretty much weird times, of course, especially with the Bundesliga, of course. Napoli and Real Madrid, I think there's the only 2 opponents. So I'll just knock it down a peg. I'll give this Manchester City spice fixture a 6. Okay, next up is Bayern Munich, Chelsea, PSG, Arsenal, PSV Eindhoven, and Club Brugge, who just absolutely destroyed Rangers, by the way. But they've been a consistent team in the Champions League. I'll give the spicy fixture list a pretty much a 7. I'll give this one maybe a 7. I think Bayern Munich are not an 8, a 7. I think Bayern Munich, they are in a, how do I say this? They're doing well in the Bundesliga. I think the 6-0 loss against Leipzig is just telling you to everybody that, hey, look guys, Bayern Munich is gonna dominate the Bundesliga again, and nobody's watching it, so it is what it is. And I think the only thing that's gonna be judged about is the Champions League. Now, Chelsea, we don't know what Chelsea is gonna be like. Of course, Chelsea has some decent good players, and PSG, reigning UEFA Champions League winners. Tough opposition, of course, especially in the Parc des Princes, of course. And let's remember, everybody, in the Club World Cup, that Bayern Munich, other than Chelsea, are the only team that give PSG the run for the money, of course, in the Club World Cup, of course. So I think Bayern Munich can handle the PSG pretty as well. Arsenal is another tricky fixture, of course, in most cases. Arsenal is just stacking up the depth. They got Victor Gyökeres. They got the goal scoring, of course, as well. So I think you got to say, and also Harry Kane is coming back home to play against his North London rivalry brethren that he was when he was at Tottenham, I knew. So this Bayern Munich fixture is going to be a pretty brutal one. That's why the 7. It's not as high as many people think, but it's going to be a really spicy one with some of the cases. Liverpool. I will say Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan are not easy team. And you can say PSV Eindhoven is not pretty much. You got 3 good games at home against 3 teams. You got Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid at home, and so does PSV Eindhoven. I think this fixture list is a guaranteed 7. Now, so far, Liverpool's season has been wacky, to say the least. The emotional situation, of course, is going on, but also this team has been flawed, mostly defensive. Early days again. We're looking at, overreactions to some of the fixtures. But again, I feel like Liverpool can handle the situation, but it's not going to be like they're winning 8 games and all that jazz. So I think it's a 7 for me. We don't know what Real Madrid will be like under Xabi Alonso. I think we already saw it in the Club World Cup. I think this team is okay. Atletico Madrid is they just plateaued in most cases. Inter are the only team that I can say that, unless Inter can just freshen up the team just a little bit more and can be strong enough, that could cause Liverpool some problems. So I think Liverpool's fixtures are going to be fine. I think I'll give them a 7 for them. PSG. Woo-wee. Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Leverkusen, Tottenham, and Atalanta. And Newcastle, which I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Qatar versus Saudi Arabia is the biggest rivalry in all of football right now. I just said it. I just said it. You don't have to. You don't have to sugarcoat this whole thing. It's here. You got to deal with it. Anyways, we don't know what Tottenham, Thomas Frank, first dipping and toes in European football. We don't know what he'll be like, so it's going to be really tough for him. Atalanta's going through a really transitional phase, of course. Their first draw against Pisa, nah. It's going to be really tough for Atalanta this season. Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Leverkusen. Well, Leverkusen is on their transitional period, as I said. Bayern Munich and Barcelona are two tricky teams because let's be brutally honest. If it wasn't for Inter Milan's heroics, we would have got Lamine Yamal and Barcelona facing off against PSG in the Champions League final. Now that let's be honest, would have been an incredible final, other than the PSG destroying all comers against Inter Milan, this aging Inter Milan team. So, brutally honest, I'm not going to discredit Inter Milan, by the way. We'll get to them later. But at the same time, we were absolutely robbed of an incredible finals between these two teams. I'm just saying. And now we're going to get them. Hopefully, I think Barcelona is still going to play pretty much away from home outside of the Camp Nou because the Camp Nou is not even finished yet. So, yeah, sucks. But PSG, they got to face Bayern Munich and Barcelona, two outstanding opponents. Atletico Club is not easy. By the way, this Atletico Club made it to the Europa League finals, of course. And say it well about the opponent, of course. But they didn't make it to the finals. Newcastle is not an easy team. Whether they have Isaac or not, they are a hard team to play against, especially in St. James's Park. They're not playing St. James's Park. They're playing the Parc des Princes. But the point remains that PSG is going to have a pretty hard time against this pretty dogged Newcastle team. And Tottenham, of course. Another English team that is dipping their toes. So, other than Atlanta, Atalanta, Tottenham, and Newcastle are just like, they're like B tier in most cases. Bayern Munich and Barcelona are kind of like the only two opponents that I can feel PSG will face. So therefore, I think the defending champions are going to get a 6 on the spice factor in terms of initial fixtures. And we're going to focus on part 1 teams. We're not going to go too deep in part 2. This is not going to be a long video and all that stuff. Like, comment, subscribe if you want more sports stuff and all that jazz. Inter Milan, Liverpool, Arsenal, Borussia Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, and Ajax. Oh boy, oh boy. This is an 8 for me. This is an 8 on the spice scale. We don't know what yes, Inter Milan's first game. They got a huge win against Torino. But this is just different levels. This is different leagues, as many people said. It's a different level of toughness. You're going to face Liverpool and Arsenal. Not easy. And, of course, they're at home field advantage, but not easy in most cases. And they're going to go to Dortmund, to Atletico Madrid, to the Juan Metropolitano, which is going to be tough in Champions League places, and then to Ajax, to a really tricky Ajax team, of course. And then, yes, you can say about these two opponents, Union Saint-Gilles and this new team, Carré Almaty, who make Celtic football look absolutely like a joke right now. Listen, if you think Man United losing to Grimsby Town is absolutely bad, the two Scottish club will make it like second and third in terms of embarrassment this week. I just say less here. So I think for Inter Milan, I think they'll be fine. I'm not sure they're fine. It's just that how is the squad going to be prepared going against some of the teams? Which, by the way, the Champions League matches will take place will start on September 16th. Keep this date in mind. September 16th is where all the Champions League will start. So Inter Milan is going to have a really tough time. Chelsea will have Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Napoli. You can say that 3 of the 4 opponents are really, really tough. I would say that Chelsea are a 7 for me. I think 7 is going to be the spice rating for Chelsea in most cases. I think that Chelsea are going to have, I think they're okay. They got some new players, of course. Cole Palmer could be a huge factor, of course. And also, Chelsea are getting rewarded for being the first team to win every single European tournament under the sun. So, it is what it is. I think they can do it in any league, anytime, anywhere. Barcelona's a tricky fixture. They got Stamford Bridge yet in the back of their minds. And they're going to entertain a really, really dogged, good Barcelona team. And trust me, Barcelona and Chelsea have so many memories. Like, I can think of 2012 and the 2009 robbery, of course, that Chelsea were robbed, of course. So, oh my God, there are some memories between these two teams, man. I can tell you what. And even 2012 when Chelsea beat Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena, ladies and gentlemen. In case you know this fun fact. So, yeah. And what, of course, speaking of 2012, Chelsea beat Napoli, turned it around, and won, and went on to win the whole thing. So, Chelsea's facing the ghosts of 2012 teams. Can you believe it? This is unbelievable. in terms of the where these teams are right now, Benfica's making a habit of like being a no joke team and then being disappointed at the same time, and that is in a transitional phase. So so Chelsea's fretful teams at the moment are Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Napoli. Consider and oh wait, Conte. Conte is coming back for Chelsea, ladies and gentlemen. Former Chelsea manager who won Chelsea's last Premier League title. Conte is still in Napoli, guys. So again, the ghost of Chelsea's past has come back to haunt them. More ways than one. Get excited, people. I think this is a 7 on my fixture list. I think it's not as scary as many people think, but the way the tricky opponents are right now, and Chelsea having like a billion players trying to figure these things out, and now Maresca is actually going to. It's not his first European tour. He actually won the Conference League, mind you. So he's got his first taste of international success and also Club World Cup champion. So yeah, I think he's had like international. He has success already. So I think Chelsea are gonna be fine. The 7 is my fixture to me. Borussia Dortmund, Inter, Tottenham, Bodo Glimt, Atletico Club. Why did I mention these three names? Because these three teams went to the Europa League semifinals, of course, last season. Then you got Manchester City and Juventus. I think this is a 6. I think it's a 7 on the fixture. I think I'll give Dortmund the 7 on the spicy scale. It's not too hot. It's not too hot. It's not too, frightful in most cases. Inter and Manchester City. Haaland, hello, coming back to Dortmund will be fun. Will be fun. Really good fun to see Haaland playing against his former team. Against his brother. Bellingham brother, of course. And let's just say that Dortmund is going to have to face a vengeful Juventus team, a Thomas Frank Tottenham team that can be solid in some cases, but we don't know about them yet. And Bodo Glimt, don't sleep on Bodo Glimt, mind you. They could be absolutely tricky, especially against Lazio's of the world. And that's all. That's it. That's pretty much it. Although Lazio are kind of like hurting themselves with the transfer embargo, so they can't even do nothing there. Have their hands tied behind my back. So it is what it is, I guess. And finally, Barcelona. PSG, Chelsea, Eintracht Frankfurt, Club Brugge, Newcastle. Welcome to the Bobby Robson derby. For in case anybody noticed, Bobby Robson replaced the late great Johan Cruyff as a coach back in the 90s. And then, of course, after a couple of years, gone to Newcastle, take them to the Champions League, of course, with Alan Shearer, of course. So, God rest his soul, Bobby Robson, one of the most unique managers in all of European football, in my opinion. So that's why I call it the Bobby Robson derby. Newcastle versus Barcelona, it will be interesting, especially in St. James's Park, which is going to be really atmospheric. So, Lamine Yamal is about to go to Chelsea, and then Lamine Yamal is about to go to, to Stamford Bridge and the St. James's Park. He's going to be fine, man. He's going to be fine. He has faced numerous tough opponents in his life. Nothing scares for this one. I think I give Barcelona other than PSG and Chelsea, and maybe Newcastle to some extent, I'll give them a 6 in the spicy scale. Nothing too much spiciness, nothing too much in the grand scheme of things. I think Barcelona, the way they have been doing right now, and hopefully the defense can make the offense look great. Although the Levante game was kind of crazy when they come back from 2-0 down and actually beat them 3-2. I believe that they can actually do work in the Champions League. So that's for the part 1 teams. We're not going to go too in depth, of course. Got Arsenal, of course, facing Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, and Inter. Good job. Benfica will take on Real Madrid. Shout out to Adrian, of course, as Benfica fan. You're facing Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Napoli, Karabag, Chelsea, Juventus, Ajax, Newcastle. You're gonna be fine. And then you got all the rest. And then you got Tottenham. By the way, welcome Thomas Frank. You're gonna face Dortmund, Villarreal, PSG. By the way, Super Cup rematch in which Tottenham nearly beat PSG. Although that's more like Tottenham being Tottenham and choked the lead away, and PSG won the penalties. But Thomas Frank already had his first experience in Europe, so I think he gave PSG a lot of fight in that Super League. So that's not an easy fixture even for PSG themselves. So, and also they're facing Bodo Glimt, a rematch of the Europa League semifinals from last year. So another tricky one like that. PSV will take on Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Napoli. Oh my Lord Almighty! Ajax, Inter, Benfica, Chelsea, Marseille, and all kind of stuff. Napoli will take on Chelsea, Man City, Benfica, PSV Eindhoven, and Eintracht Frankfurt, and all kind of stuff. And they got a pot 4 teams, welcome and all kind of stuff. All the matches will take place on September 16th to the 18th, and then we'll go through all this stuff, including New Year's Day. Yes, we're gonna play Champions League matches in January. This is what happens when you let you know suits run football business, I guess. Until January 28th, when all the matches will take place at the same time, and we'll find out which teams will go through and which teams are not. Remember, first to 8, automatic round of 16, 9 to 24, round of 6, qualification stage to the round of 16, two-legged matches, of course, and then the rest will go home for good for the rest of the year, or the rest of the season, mind you, from Europe, all included. So, I think that should do it. That should conclude my Champions League reactions and all kind of stuff, including my spicy takes of where the fixtures and all kind of stuff. You can see right now, Inter Milan has a really spicy fixtures, of course. Man City and Barcelona, not as much. And you get a lot of sevens. We got some pretty much spicy fixtures, but not too much to salivate it, of course, and be tough. But a lot can change between now and when the Champions League starts. Lots of football will be taking place. So, anyways, enjoy the Champions League and all that jazz. I will see you all later. And enjoy the games. Ciao.